Before we get into the session, please take a moment to read our Microsoft's Code of Conduct. We're all here to learn, so please be respectful of other people's views, understanding of differences, and please be kind and considerate in the way you engage. The chat will be open throughout, and we do encourage you all to participate. Today is the second episode of the EMBRACE series, and this episode is on the Circle of Mentoring. You can find all the previous episodes on the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel, and I'll also be posting the link for that channel in the chats very soon. And with that, I'm now actually going to hand over to Rupa, who will introduce the session properly.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ravani. So everyone, I'm just going to share my screen very quickly, just so that you have a one-slider of sort of our agenda and introduce to you what we are actually doing today here. Okay, so first and foremostly, welcome everyone, very warm welcome to all of you today. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. My name is Rupa Suresh. I'm a customer engineer at Microsoft, and I will be your host for this session this evening. So just before we actually go into the agenda, I wanted to explain to you a little bit about exactly what the EMBRACE Employee Resource Group the team which is actually presenting this session actually is. So this is an employee resource group within Microsoft that we used to be the Bain ERG. We've actually now moved to calling ourselves EMBRACE. It's not an acronym to represent that we embrace all backgrounds and cultures. Now, the tech sector is one of the few sectors that I can very solidly say it serves every single field and touches every corner of the world. And because we work in such a way, we do need to have that representation from all of these different areas at the table. But unfortunately, it's not something we always see within the tech sector. And this is one of the reasons why we are bringing you the Skill Up series to help shed some light on what is useful in the field and encourage you in your journey as well, regardless of where you are in the world and also where you are in your career. So just to flow into our topic for the day, it is the topic of mentorship. I will say apologies to the audience. We were expecting Dan also to be able to join our call, but unfortunately he's not able to today. So warmest wishes to Dan. And just going through our agenda for the day very briefly. So first thing we will do is a couple of introductions, a keynote by Pamela Barotti. I'll let Pamela introduce herself in just a moment and follow up with a panel with Fardos and Kwasi, both employees at Microsoft as well, as is Pamela, our keynote speaker. And also follow up with Q&A from yourselves. So you should have access to the chat. Please feel free to use that to drop in your questions at any stage during this meeting. We will make sure that we are moderating and have an eye on that so we can ask your questions when we get to that Q&A section towards the end. If you would like to, please also drop us some feedback as well. We would love to hear from you. And finally, what we'll also do, of course, is a closeout and thank you as well. So flowing naturally into the next section of this session, I'll hand over to Pamela.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm just sharing my screen now. You should be able to see. Can you see it?
Yes, thank you, Pamela. We can see it.
Great. So thank you for having me. So I'm head of customer advocacy at Microsoft UK. So throughout my career, I've worked primarily in marketing, communications, and advocacy in the tech industry, working for startups as well as global companies, covering UK and global markets. But alongside my career, I've always been really passionate about helping and empowering people. And in the last 8 years, I've been involved in a number of mentoring programs. So just to share a few, I've been a mentor at Reach Out, which is a charity that works with kids from unprivileged backgrounds. Youth Employment, I think straightforward, is a charity that helps young people to get into the job market. I'm on the board of the Charity of Marketing, so I've been both a mentor and mentee on the program for many, many years. I've designed and launched a mentoring program in partnership with Person College. And I've also had the opportunity to both be a mentor and mentee at a number of companies that I worked for before, including Microsoft. So hopefully what I share here, will be helpful to you. I've also, in addition to marketing business, I've also studied coaching. So I'm qualified personal performance and executive coach. And of course, coaching, mentoring are different, and we are gonna, cover that in a minute. However, I do feel like having some coaching tools can help me to be a better mentor. And I'm gonna share with you in a moment. But what is mentoring? There's so many different definitions out there. So for the purpose of today's sessions, I want you to think about it, mentoring as a relationship between one person, so the mentor, that supports the learning, development, and progress of another person, the mentee. So the mentor is providing, offering support, information, advice in a way that empowers the mentee. That is a definition by Julie Starr. She has written several books on mentoring coach. If you are keen to learn more about this subject, I recommend you to read some of her books. But for me personally, what I like about this definition is the empower part. Because for me, that's what mentoring is. It is about helping people to be the best version, to come up with new ideas, to empower them to step into the power. But I wanted to now cover the key definitions, right? We talk about mentors, so it's all about providing guidance, direction, share their own experience, and offer support on how you can move forward. Next category, we have sponsors, right? So usually sponsors are senior colleagues in an organization, and they use their connections to help you to succeed. They're going to advocate for you to get promoted or be on a special assignment, get raised. Basically, sponsor is your advocate in the organization. Then we have coaches. So coaches help individuals to set goals, come up with options and actions to achieve their goals. So I think the main difference between coaching and mentoring is that in coaching, if you talk about pure coaching, the coach asks questions and use frameworks to help the person to come up with their own solution and ideas. Mentors, we should do the same. We should ask questions, but we can also be more directive. We can share guidance and advice. So that's kind of the main difference between mentor and coach. Consultants, that's usually more used in business, right? So they are hired to analyze, understand what the problem is, and provide recommendations to individuals. And again, that's usually used in a company environment, not so much on a personal level. And counselors, they give support and guidance on personal and psychological problems. So I think we all know, right, we're still in the middle of a global pandemic. There are so many challenges happening. If a person is feeling anxious or depressed, the best person that can help them, it is a counselor, not a coach or a mentor. So I think it's important to have these key definitions because that helps you. If you want to be a mentor, you kind of know a little bit of your boundaries are. And if you want a mentee, helps you to understand that what type of support you need throughout your life. But now we're going to look into the benefits, right? So I wanted this session to be interactive. So I'd like to hear from you. If you can type on the chat, and we are among friends, right? There is no right or wrong here. What are the benefits for mentors and mentees? I'm very curious to, to hear what you have to say. You can type your answer here. I can see, I'm checking here the teams on my phone as well. I see some people typing growth opportunities. Absolutely. Bring structure to your career. Definitely. That's so important. Collaboration skills, learning from each other's experience. Great, great. Like you guys on fire. I think I can end my keynote. Expand your network, absolutely. Safe space for a person to bounce ideas off. Absolutely. You guys are spot on. So for mentors, right, I think it is, and again, that's also, I share a bit of my personal experience, is really, there's a lot of satisfaction of helping your mentee to grow and develop. I think for me, when I had emails or calls or sometimes messages from my mentees saying, Pamela, I overcame the challenge, or I got the job, or oh, I managed to get a scholarship to study in Europe, and I'm from a very, very poor family. I think I have to say, those stories, those achievements are so important and make me so happy. It's so great to see someone growing and developing. And of course, for us, also help us to develop our leadership skills and management skills in a way. So perhaps if you are even early in your career, or if you're just a student, you can still mentor the different types of programs, which I share in a minute as well. So sometimes people think, oh, I need to be a very senior stakeholder or a C-level exec. Not necessarily. Everyone has something to offer, and again, there's a lot of benefits for you to be mentors. Enhance your CV, you get exposure to new ideas and perspectives. It's amazing. I think sometimes I question myself, who is learning more, if it's my mentee or myself? I think, to be honest, both. I think we both learn equally from each other, which is fantastic. Raise profile in the field as well. So these are some of the benefits for the mentors. And for the mentees, which you guys already shared quite a few of them as well. So for the mentees as well, it's great for them to have a connection, discuss career progression, concerns, establish direction. Because sometimes it can be a bit hard, to figure it out everything on your own. Regardless if you are a student, earning career, or a seasonal professional, it's so important, to have someone to have your corner, to listen to you in a non-judgmental manner, so you can, get some ideas or even have a sounding board. Receive support, it's very important. Become part of a wider network and learn new skills as well. Also, of course, you can have access and expertise of more experienced professionals. Or even if you're a seasonal professional, perhaps you wanted to, let's say, learn more about social media, or you wanted to understand more the young generation, how they think. You can also learn from your mentee. So it's a beautiful exchange. It's a beautiful way to grow and learn. Now we talk about roles, right? And of course, every mentoring program has different set of roles, expectations, durations. So what I'm sharing here is more like an overview, right? But that can certainly change from mentoring program to, to each mentoring program. So mentee roles. I think for me, the way I see is the mentee is responsible for maintaining the relationship, which means is that if I'm mentoring someone, I want to make sure that they are engaging, they are setting up the sessions, they come prepared, right? I don't want to feel like I have to chase them, right? That's not my responsibility. Also, it's important to communicate it and the time frame and the methods that we agree. So if you're thinking about it, mentoring is, for me, when if someone comes to me, they want to be mentored by me, first I ask them what they need help with, what is expectation, what does success look like. The reason is because perhaps I might not be the right mentor for them, right? Depends on what they need help with, and I'm very confident and comfortable in sharing that. And likewise, sometimes I want someone to mentor me, and maybe after asking a few questions and having initial chat with you, actually that's not the best match. And it's very important as well to set expectations, right? So what are you trying to get out of the mentoring relationship? How long is going to be it for? It's 6 months, and are you meeting like once a month? How are you going to meet? Because you don't want to get messes, right, at midnight or on the weekends, or maybe you do, I don't know. So this is just some ideas for you. Mentee, they should take the lead and set the agenda. Of course, the mentor is going to be there to support, to guidance, but I don't want to go to a meeting when the mentee turns up and said, oh, I don't know, I don't have anything to talk about it, I have no topic, right? That's not the best use of our time together. So it's great if you're thinking about it, having a mentor, like what do you want to get out of the relationship? And things can change, right? So for example, I have someone that I was coaching, mentoring, helping them to get a job. And then they got a job. So then we kind of changed that from getting the job to settling to the new job, building relationships, delivering an impact. So a mentoring relationship can evolve, right? Because life is fluid, right? Things change, but it's important to be very clear about what we wanted to get out of it. Set targets, right? And I think it's always good to have smart targets to make sure you're very, specific, measurable, actionable, the time. So otherwise you cannot measure the success. Appreciate the investment, right, for the mentor. So they are giving you the time, the energy, their commitment to you. So I think it's important to be, appreciative. And also it's important to keep a record of the meetings, because then what you can do is that we can just have a note of what we discussed, what are your goals, what we're going to do between sessions, so that we can prepare for the next session. And here it's an overview of the mentor's role. So for me, and again, mentors have different approach, depends on the mentoring program. But for me, I love asking my mentees questions to stimulate their thinking. So if they ask me a question, rather than just me going in and sharing my ideas and my advice, I ask them some strategic questions so they can come up with their own solutions. And then I also share my view. It's also about support, right? Encourage them, validate their things, but challenge them as well, right? In a respectful manner. And share the knowledge and experience. So from my experience, I think these 4 areas are the areas where we mentors add more value to the mentees. And now I'm curious again. I wanted the session to be, it continues to be interactive. So I'd love for you to share with me what skills you think mentors needs to have or develop. Share with me on the Teams chat. Open, yes. Patience, absolutely. A lot of patience. Communication, listener, yes. Listening skills, absolutely. Good communication skills, yes. So, I think listen came up a few times, so absolutely. It's about listening effectively. And, we're all human beings. It's difficult sometimes to listen and not, jump in with the answer or try to, share our agenda or experience right away. But what I observe is that the more we listen, the more we ask you questions, the more we hold a space, the more your mentee can grow. And also, again, ask questions before giving your opinion, because it's very easy for us just to go in, and just by asking questions, you are actually helping your mentee to develop their thinking process further. And let's face it, right? I think we all know we are more likely to take action on ideas that we came up with, right? I think we are all human beings. That's how we roll. So again, it's important to ask questions. Keep the session to the mentee's agenda. Again, right? Perhaps the person wants to talk about A. I feel like, oh, but B would be more, exciting. No, like try to guide them, listen in the right direction. Keep your confidentiality. I mean, of course, the mentor relationship, what is shared should be confidential. I mean, of course, if someone is at danger or if it's something it's not right, then yes, you might have to break the confidentiality agreement. But otherwise, it's really a safe space for both parties, for the mentee to share, and same with the mentor. Because, mentors sometimes, like, we're not perfect. I'm not at all. And sometimes, we might want to even share, like the mistakes you made or, or failures. And so that's why it's important to have that confidentiality, and so we both feel safe and trust each other to grow and thrive. Build a rapport. Of course, it's very important, listen to the person, be present, ask questions. I think for me, if I'm mentoring someone before the first session, I ask them to share their, answer a few questions about themselves or share their CV or LinkedIn, just because it helps me to see, okay, like what we have in common, just to kind of help that, trust in the relationship. Because let's face it, right? It'd be very hard, to meet, speak to someone I've never saw before and already start opening up. I mean, right? So it's good to kind of started sharing about, your career, or maybe a little bit of personal life, just to build a rapport and trust. Now I'm going to share the do's and don'ts. So do set expectations and agree on boundaries from the beginning. Again, even if you are a mentor, it's important for you to be clear. What do you want to get out of the mentoring relationship? And for the mentee, absolutely. Do you need help with your career? Do you want to improve your soft skills? What is there you want to achieve? Boundaries, remember, how often are you meeting? How are we communicating? It's very important. And if you're a mentor, again, we know I mentioned already, facilitate mentees' thinking processes through effective listening. And one thing that I found very effective as well was when someone shares, I quite like play back to them. Say, well, what I'm hearing is that you said X, Z, and Y. And also asking open questions, because again, the person feels heard, and by asking open questions, you make them think in a different way and come up with new ideas. Be flexible and committed. I think we all know, right? Life is fluid. Sometimes challenges come up. You might need to change a meeting, or you start to work on a subject and then you have to move. It's absolutely fine. I think as long as you keep that dialogue and openness between each other. And understand the operating principles of mentoring. That's something that I share, at the beginning. Remember, when you talk about it, what mentoring is and the differences between mentoring, coaching, counseling, sponsor. It's very important so that you don't mix the roles. And helping the mentees to remove barriers and blocks. Sometimes, and of course, depends on the mentor. You might feel comfortable introducing your mentee to your network, or you might want to review the CV or give some guidance on soft skills. It's all about discussing what the needs of the mentees and what you as a mentor you're prepared to share, and what skills you feel like you can offer. And again, bring appropriate levels of challenge to the conversations. Of course, always respectful, but it's someone, it's good to say, challenge them, make them think in a different way, or question why you want to do this, what is the benefit, just so that they can think, reflect, and hopefully come up with the best solution for the next steps. And things that you shouldn't do: try to control your mentee and your mentor as well, right? Because again, it's very interesting, right? I think particularly for a seasonal professional, sometimes someone comes to you and you feel like, oh, I know you want to focus on this, but let's focus on something else. You can always advise, but that's one thing, we can't control the mentee. And that's why I always say the mentee needs to take responsibility, right? Because you as a mentor, you don't want to be chasing your mentee like, oh, did you take your actions? When are you meeting? That's not, your role. And I'm sure you don't want to be in that position. And ultimately, what the mentees choose to do, learn, or if they want to ignore, it's not your responsibility. And I have to say, this is sometimes is hard, right? Because you as a mentor, you're someone that loves helping people to grow, to thrive. And it's difficult sometimes, right, to not feel responsible for that. But you need to be very clear, right? Your role here is to give guidance, advice. The mentee's role is to make the decision on what they want to do, when and how. So it's all about boundaries. And avoid giving guidance before asking questions, because as I said before, like if ask a lot of give guidance before asking questions. Maybe your guidance is not so relevant. Same, avoid canceling agreements or appointments. Sometimes happens, but if every single session is canceled, postponed, you might want to ask, is this something that we want to continue? Or maybe the relationship came to an end, which is fine. It is important to have structure, like what you're trying to achieve, but sometimes too much structure can almost feel like, like what an interview or, like a business meeting. You don't want to be too rigid. So one thing people ask is, where do I find a mentor? Or maybe you want to be a mentor. Where do I find a mentee? There are many places. I'm going to share with you here some ideas. At your company, so most organizations, they have a mentoring program. So I encourage you to speak to your resource groups or HR or learning development team and to see what options you have to be a mentor or a mentee. At university, most universities, they offer mentoring programs. So you might want to check it out. You can look at an industry-specific platform. So, for example, Microsoft, you have TechHer. I'm a mentor for TechHer, so I mentor some people from there, and it's a great place to connect. Or you might want to look at some professional specific platform. So, for example, like I mentioned, right, my background is marketing. I'm on the board of the Chartered of Marketing, and I've been a mentor and a mentee for many, many years through their mentoring program. So just some ideas of when and how you can find it, mentoring programs. So I hope that this overview, gave you some insights on what mentoring is and isn't, the roles of mentors and mentees, key skills, do's and don'ts, and most important, hopefully I got you excited, to get on a journey, because I have to say it's really, really rewarding. And I think it's amazing opportunity to grow as a professional, as a person, as a human being. So I encourage you all to be both mentor and mentees. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Pamela. That was incredible keynotes. And I can see people actually.
Oh, thank you.
In the background as well. Incredible. Thank you. Genuinely, it was so interesting to hear you speak. It was a very comprehensive overview that you actually gave as well, which is fantastic. I'm almost like, do I have any questions to ask? She's covered everything well. Unfortunately, I do have some questions to ask. But at the same time, wanted to say a really big thank you. And also I am a mentor and a mentee. I really enjoy the relationships that I've had with my mentors and mentees and continue to sustain. But at the same time, you have really reignited that excitement for me in both sides of that. So I have to say a really big thank you for that. Then what we're going to do next, to everyone who's here, we're actually going to move on to our panel section, where we've got a couple of questions that I would really like to ask, and sort of expand on a couple of the topics, actually, because I feel like, Pamela, you've done a fantastic job of starting us on that journey of, exploring the mentor-mentee side of things. But what I'd really like to do is explore even further and add a couple more perspectives to this conversation as well. So on that note, what I would really like to do is introduce Fardos and Kwasi. So Fardos, if you'd like to just do a quick self-introduction to yourself, and Kwasi, if you'd like to follow.
Great, thank you, Rupa. As you said, my name is Fardos Mohsin. I'm an account delivery exec at Microsoft. I've been working in the IT industry for far longer than I care to admit, probably a very, very long time. I've achieved significant success in my career, and I would, hand on heart, say I would not have achieved that if I hadn't had mentors at the right time throughout my career.
Amazing, thank you, Fardos. Hi all, good evening. My name is Kwesi Amwaku. I'm a customer engineer at Microsoft. Within the modern work department, we handle everything Office 365, including the teams that we're using today. I've been at Microsoft and in the IT industry for about 2.5 years now, getting to 3 years. I joined as a graduate, but prior to that, I was in the banking industry. So I did a year after graduation in banking and a placement year within banking. And sort of through that, and especially during the transition period from the banking industry to technology, mentorship played a pivotal role. So yeah, I guess during this chat, that's a lot of the experiences that I'm going to draw from for sure.
Amazing stuff. Thank you both. So what I'll do is I've got a couple of questions that I'd like you all to kind of expand on, just building on Pamela's chat. Then in the meanwhile, to our audience, if you do have any questions, again, just a reminder, please go ahead and throw them into the chat. We will get to them. I see that we've already got a couple of questions coming through. So after a couple of questions, I just wanted to give you some time to actually put them into the chat. So first question that I would really like to expand a little bit further on. So Pamela, you gave us an introduction, a great introduction to where you can potentially find these mentorship programs. And Fardos, I know that you've done a lot, and I mean a lot of work within Microsoft on a variety of different mentoring initiatives. So if I can extend this to yourself, and then of course from there, our other panelists, please feel free to jump in and add your perspective as well. This isn't just a closed question to a single person. So Fardos, yeah, how do you go about finding a mentor? Where can you look?
So I think to extend on what Pamela shared, your mentor can come from a number of sources. It can be personal, it can be professional, it can be a body that you're affiliated to. It really does depend on what it is that you're trying to achieve, and what you want to do is align a mentor to help you achieve, whether that be a short-term, medium or long-term objective. And I've had mentors in my past that have helped me get through and complete my master's. That was a personal ambition of mine, right? And I was able to do that. Equally, I've had mentors through different stages of my career with different skill sets that I've leveraged that experience to help me build that knowledge and experience and move into the role that I wanted to get to, and then find another mentor to take me the next step. So it really does depend on what you're trying to achieve, but the mentor is available through a number of sources, as Pamela's already shared.
And Kwasi, if I can actually extend that question to you as well, because you said you definitely, really used those mentorship relationships when you were changing industries, which I can imagine for some of us in the call that might be of interest, in the future as well. What's your experience?
Sure, definitely. I guess because this is an embrace organized call, and sort of diversity and inclusion is one of the biggest focuses at Microsoft anyway, I can kind of give the experience of when I was a graduate or graduating from university, there were so many schemes available, kind of focused on diversity and inclusion, and all of those schemes put mentorship as the importance, kind of one of their pillars during the program. And those schemes kind of focus on helping diverse candidates and in my case, students, but it definitely goes beyond students, young professionals, sometimes experienced professionals, in sort of landing jobs, whether that be landing corporate jobs, whether that be in law, investment banking, technology is becoming more and more popular most recently. Some of those organizations that I belong to, SEO London, some of those organizations, work with Microsoft. For example, SEO London, Alito Foundation, Color in Tech. I got my mentor from, I think they're called the East London Business Alliance. The acronym is ELBA, which is what I remember more. And they were essentially, it was called Parity Program, and they were essentially helping young Black males. So it wasn't necessarily just graduates; it was young Black males finding mentors in different areas, and that's where I kind of found my mentor, who was actually a technologist within banking. So it kind of made a bit of sense where I was kind of making that transition, and not necessarily saying that you have to find a mentor who's directly aligned to what you want to become, who you want to become, but there are some synergies that you'll pull from someone's experience that will really enrich your journey, and that's essentially what happened with mine.
Yeah, and I have to actually add my own experience to that and say that was very much the case for me when I first joined Microsoft. I kind of felt like my mentor perhaps wasn't quite as aligned as I was hoping with, the direction that I wanted to go in. But at the same time, he was a brilliant mentor, really brought me in leaps and bounds, forward with my journey within Microsoft itself. So I feel like that's probably a good takeaway as well. Give, someone a chance to mentor you, see what it could potentially bring.
And I think one of the things that was mentioned on the responses to Pamela's question, a mentor has a network, and typically, they can be quite senior. So if they aren't able to help you, they'll leverage that network to help you. So I think that's fundamentally something really important to be aware of. So just because they're not right for that particular scenario doesn't necessarily mean they can't bring the knowledge and experience from somewhere else to help you.
Agree. And I think, you can also have more than one mentor, at the same time, right?
Yes.
So perhaps, let's say you need a mentor to focus on a specific skills, and the other one perhaps is more, about the career. So that's absolutely fine. But I think for me, my advice is, for the mentees, just be very clear, right? Like what we're trying to get out of the relationship, right? Because otherwise you don't want to turn up on the call and just, yeah or no, because then, end up being a nice chat, right? Which is, again, I think is great, but just be mindful of, of your mentor's time, right? Make most of the opportunity. And as Fardo said, right, your mentor probably has, senior network. So think about as well how you're presenting, right? Because that he could be, become an advocate for you in the future, or sponsor, like I think you mentioned before, if you move companies or not. I think again, that's my experience, and I'd love to hear, the experience from the panel as well, is that, sometimes the mentoring relationship can evolve, right? So what I tend to do is to agree, whether could be 3 months, could be 6 months, or a year, or perhaps, as Fardo said, you're, work on your masters, because that helps, right? And you can track progress. And then if after the period you feel actually, you help me, now I'm in a different place, what that can should happen is you either end the relationship, or you say, okay, actually, let's move this to quarterly. Or, for example, I just finished mentoring someone from TechHer. So, in the time we worked together, she got a job, she finished her master's, she's doing really well. It's like, Pam, I don't have a lot of things to discuss, but can we stay in touch and maybe, in 3 months' time, touch base? Yes, absolutely. But for me personally, I think it's important to have a closure or an agreement rather than them just disappear. So that's, and again, even if they move companies, or I have, mentees that move countries, it depends on the relationship and dialogue. Or there are some cases as well, if you actually, we both get loads out of the mentoring relationship, but I don't think there is anything else for us to learn together, which is absolutely fine.
Fantastic. And great advice coming through here as well, to be honest, because it does feel a little bit awkward sometimes when you realize, well, maybe I've seen this mentorship through. I'm not really sure I need those weekly calls with you anymore, or even like a monthly call. But it doesn't mean that you want them to just drop out of your life completely. So yeah, fantastic advice. Thank you. So just moving on to a question or two that I can see in the chat. What should mentees be doing to fully leverage their mentor? I think this is a great question.
So for me, again, I would point at what Pamela shared. You have to have clear objective of what you're trying to achieve. If you don't, then you're just going to meander in that relationship, and you're not actually going to get any real value or benefit from that relationship with your mentor. And actually, you're going to walk away quite frustrated with the whole mentoring process. And that's not productive for anyone, the mentor and the mentee. Okay, because the mentor is going to be relatively busy. If they're senior, you want to take as much value out of that relationship. So I think you need to have, a smart view. So specific, measurable, realistic time frame for whatever you're trying to achieve, and you can agree that through your discussion with your mentor. If the mentor feels it's not realistic, then you sit and you agree what is realistic. That's the nature of the relationship, and their experience will come to that conversation. So I think, you know, that is probably what you need to do at the outset. Come with a set of objectives that you're trying to achieve. Prioritize those objectives. Some of them will be short, medium, long, and then agree a set of actions against each of those.
Absolutely fantastic advice there. Pamela and Kwasi, anything that you guys would like to add?
I think Fortis did an amazing job, covering. I guess what I would just recommend as well, for the mentees is be prepared, right? So when you go to before the session, yes, what is your objective? Absolutely. But what do you want to, focus on this specific session, right? Write down, do you have questions? Also, what usually happens is between sessions, right? When the session ends, usually mentees, they leave with some actions, right? So be realistic, right? Have you had time to take the action? Sometimes we get it, life gets on the way, but, do your part, take the actions, share that with your mentor, because that's how you're going to get most out of the relationship. And let's face it, right? For example, if I'm a mentor mentoring someone and the person, is dedicated, is driven, is very enthusiastic, it's more likely that I will recommend them, right? Yeah. To a job, or to introduce to my network, or advocate for them at my company and outside. So it's important to have that in mind as well, so yeah, that's another little tip.
Yeah, couldn't have said it any better, to be honest. Fardos, Pamela, they really covered it, especially when it comes to going there with intention. To be honest, that idea of approaching anything with intention can be applied to everything, not just mentorship. So it's a good tip anyway. Definitely have intention behind every single meeting, and intention behind what you want to achieve out of this mentorship relationship.
Definitely. And this is a really interesting question following on from that, again, from our audience. What if your mentor isn't right for you? How do you have that conversation? Isn't it awkward if you have had an intro call and then, you decide maybe this isn't quite right for you?
Well, I guess, personally, again, the way I like it to, choose a mentor, or if someone wants me to be the mentor, I always have a chat. First, I want to understand, okay, what is your expectation, right? What does success look like? What are you trying to get out of this, the mentoring relationship? And I always very open. I say, okay, why don't we just have a, like a half an hour call, or maybe if in the office we grab a coffee and just see what it is like. And I have to be honest, there was it happened to me that it wasn't with my company, it was to another mentoring program, that I didn't feel that the person was the right mentor for me, right? It's amazing. But I had an amazing conversation, I got some insights, and we just said, actually, based on you trying to achieve and the help you need, Pamela, I'm not the right person. I said, actually, yeah, and that's fine. Personally, no, I don't think there is a no hard feelings,
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The whole nature of the mentor-mentee relationship, it has to be open, it has to be transparent, it has to have good communication. And part of that is recognizing whether that's the right mentor or mentee. It's a two-way relationship. So fundamentally, if neither of you are getting any value out of it, then both of you are wasting each other's time, and both of you are going to get frustrated with the relationship, which adds no benefit or value to anyone. So if you have those basic rules of your engagement with your mentor and mentee about being open and transparent and communicating, then you can have that difficult conversation. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but not all mentor relationships last forever. At some point, they will draw to a close. But what you do is you agree out on the outset how long that relationship will last. Now, if it doesn't, then you have to have that that conversation and then agree what the next steps are. But yeah.
Absolutely. And one thing I personally like as well, particularly, you know, when I'm looking for a mentor, let's say in my organization, I think what I might do rather than just go straight and say, oh, do you want to be my mentor? What I might do is that I might ask the person for 30 minutes and say, well, I would love to have a session with you to get your advice on A, B, and C. And then we see how it goes, right? And then, and that's interesting. Sometimes it can become a natural relationship, mentorship, right? So again, if you haven't had any, you know, because I think the worst thing, you don't want as well, you know, burn any bridges. So to make, could be a nice way to, okay, actually, can you just have a, you know, half an hour? I just want to get your feedback, particularly if you don't know the person. And then you just get a sense, right? Is there like a good match? You know, you get on well. Do you feel comfortable with the person? Because it's important to feel safe and to feel certain level of rapport. Yes, it builds over time, but sometimes I think we all know, right? Some people, it's just perhaps a little bit harder to work with and open up than others. So again, that's another tip that you may want to consider.
I love that
Yeah.
tip. You actually took the exact thing that I do myself, which is I try and ask a couple of questions about, you know, I'm maybe interested in your role. I don't know much about it. Would you mind talking about it? Hey, I heard about this project that you're doing. I'd love to hear more about it. Would you mind like a 15, 20-minute chat? So absolutely fantastic advice. And then Kwasi, I'm sorry, I think I cut you off. Did you have something else that you also wanted to add?
I did. I was trying to use the raise hand function, but that didn't seem to be working. It's kind of
No, it's
working now,
working.
but
It's working.
it's working also. Yeah, I mean, what Pamela said about you don't want to be burning bridges, or it's not your intention to burn a bridge, that's I think very important. The whole idea of building a network is to kind of maintain that connection. So you don't know what value or what knowledge that or wisdom that person can impart on you at a different stage in your life. So if you manage expectations, end whatever kind of relationship amicably, then you don't know when you can kind of draw on that person and draw on their experiences later on down the line. So definitely try your best to kind of end things on a great note.
That's fantastic advice. I personally have only been at Microsoft a year and a half, so I have yet to see this in play, but I'm hoping I will in the future. Another question I'd love to ask all of you, and maybe Kwasi, we can actually begin with you for this one. So what has surprised you about either being a mentor or a mentee?
What has surprised me? Sorry, my hand keeps going up now. What has surprised me, I'd say, is I guess initially as a young person sort of graduating and coming into sort of certain things, especially at Microsoft, joining the graduate program where you're allocated a mentor, you do kind of have that attitude that you just want to kind of get into the work, get stuck in, just kind of jump and land on 2 feet and start running. And then you're kind of allocated this mentor, which you have to check in with, you know, do the whole kind of come up with a plan together, etc. I don't know. I think I kind of had a pessimistic view at the beginning, but it surprised me the amount of value I got out of that relationship, whether it be sort of actual work, technical ramp up, how to navigate the corporate world, even though Microsoft is we have a very great culture, to be honest. It's not too corporate, but how to navigate, I guess, the work life. You know, there was so much insight that I got from the relationship. I think I really entered it from a pessimistic point of view, and yeah, that kind of said to me that, you know, again, at the same time, no matter who the person is, whether they're in a role you want, whether they're in a position you want, whether you think they can add value or not, be open and be receptive to the idea of being mentored, and you don't know what value you're going to get off the back of it. On the flip side, when I kind of was a year into my Aspire program as a graduate, and you are given an Aspire buddy. Rupa is one of my Aspire buddies. I've been given like 2 now or 3. And you know, you kind of have the feeling at the same time, what Pamela mentioned during her keynote, you don't feel senior enough to be a mentor. You feel like you have no value to add. You're still learning. What value can I impart on someone else? But don't underestimate yourself. When the mentee opportunity arises, the opportunity to be a mentor, definitely grab that, because at the same time, you don't know what value you'll be able to impart on someone else. So I hope Ruth has learned some stuff from me.
I can fully vouch for him. He's done a fantastic job over the 1.5 years, honestly. Kwasi is one of the first people who helped me, you know, like really solidify my foundations within Microsoft. So it does very good mentorship, you know, pair that you can actually to look to and sort of share our experience, really. But Pamela, Fardas as well, I'd love to hear your experience in this area as well.
I think for me, what surprised me is how much I have learned. You know, both being a mentor and a mentee, you know, and it's amazing how much, you know, particularly if you mentor someone, you learn so much, you know, from the experience, you know, the background, the way they see the world. And of course, you know, if you are a mentee, you learn that from your mentor. So I think for me, that's something amazing. And I have to say, you know, from the bottom of my heart, I think the impact that mentoring has made it, you know, in my life and also on the life of those who've been to the mentoring programs that I participated, I think is so rewarding. You know, I think see both myself and other people, you know, to grow, to thrive, to flourish, it's priceless. So those two things, you know, like the growth and the learning are the two key aspects for me.
And I think for me, it's just the diversity of people that are you know, part of the mentoring program. I think, you know, as you mentioned, I run an EMBRACE mentoring program for external mentees, and I think, you know, what I find the biggest enjoyment I get out of this is just the range of experience that is available to share. To Kwasi's point, he says, you know, I can't be a mentor. I don't know that much. I'm not that technical. I've only been in a job for a year. Well, some of the mentees that I've got as part of my program are early in career, and you'd be surprised at the number of, you know, amount of expertise and experience that you can share with someone who's just embarking on their career. Because if I look to my, you know, 19-year-old self, or at that time, what little I knew, how I wish I had a mentor at that time that would have helped me just start to build that foundation for my career. So I think, you know, that's the learning I'm taking from the program, and I think it's just amazing that we can pay that back to the next generation of talent.
Absolutely, really great points to make. I'm aware of time, so I just want to ask the last question that I can see in the chat. And this actually applies to me in a very personal way, because my first technical mentor at Microsoft actually left several months ago. Can you keep your mentor even if you leave your company, or if your mentor leaves the company?
Yes. Sorry, I still have my mentee from last year's program, which stopped back in June. She's gone back to university, and I still mentor her. She's not within the program, and for me, I don't think that as long as she's getting value out of it, and as I am, and it is a benefit of the relationship, there shouldn't be a time limit set on it. As long as that value and benefit is there, then I don't see any issues with continuing that relationship.
Agreed. Well said. I don't have anything to add.
No, truly beautifully put. And I love that that was just a flat out yes, you can. I'm very much actually encouraged to.
Yeah.
No, I found that personally as well, that, you know, it's very fulfilling to continue that relationship, and it kind of doesn't matter to most of your mentors. You know, if you've built a good relationship with them, then they want to know how you're doing. You know, they want to be able to continue to help you, even if you're only having a check-in like once every 6 months. But that's my personal experience, and I have to admit, I really hope that everyone on the call also has very positive experiences with mentorship. We are closing on the call at the moment, so I'm just 2 minutes away from our call close out time. I have to say a very, very big thank you to every single one of our speakers for having been present today, for sharing, you know, your experience, your life experience and wisdom that you actually, you know, put together along the way, all the tips and tricks that you shared as well. Fantastic. I really hope to everyone in our audience that you found it useful, and you've learned something to take away. If you do have any feedback, please, again, feel free to just drop it in the chat. Let us know. This is not the end of our series. We are expecting to have an episode like this once a month, every single first Tuesday of the month. This time, 6 to 7 p.m. There will be lots of other topics covered. So today we covered mentorship. We're expecting to cover topics such as technically upskilling, roles that you'll find in the technical field that are not necessarily technical, you know, working on your networking skills. We actually touched on networking quite a bit today. So we'll have a full session just dedicated to these various topics, to, you know, help you grow, and hopefully encourage you on your journey more than anything else. So really big thank you again to our speakers, really big thank you to our audience for being here, and also to all the team who have come together to put this event together. So I hope all of you have a fantastic rest of evening, and I'll say thank you again.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All.
Thanks,
So
everyone.
great.
Thanks
Thank you.
all.
Have a nice
Have a
evening.
good
Bye.
evening.
Bye. Bye.